Was not the only one to receive a personal end-of-year message from Kim Jong-un. US President Donald Trump has revealed that he was also sent a letter by the North Korean leader. How does that affect the current situation on the Korean Peninsula? Well, we'll look at that in more detail later. But first, we start with the latest headlines with Devin Whiting at the News Center. Devin?
Hi, Jung-ho. South Korea, technology-wise, has advanced by leaps and bounds over the years, and the government wants to make sure its achievements, especially in the defense industry, are not stolen. Today, it announced a set of comprehensive measures to stop technology leaks. Park Ji-won has the details.
Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon presided over this year's very first weekly ministerial meeting earlier Thursday, announcing the government's comprehensive measures to protect the nation's key industries from risks of technology leakage. The meeting was attended by the heads of the Defense, Justice, and Trade Ministries and the head of the Defense Acquisition Program Administration, along with other key officials. Prime Minister Lee stressed that South Korea needs stronger measures to protect its industrial technology, especially in the defense sector, which is now estimated to be in the top 9 in the world. After closely consulting with the related agencies and ministries, the nation's defense ministry came up with a package of measures. First, the ministry will strengthen punitive measures against any attempts to leak arms technology. In addition to existing criminal procedures for tech leakage, local defense firms could lose their entitlement as officially designated defense firms. Second, the Defense Ministry will strengthen investigations into the nation's defense firms while providing various incentives to encourage voluntary efforts to prevent tech leakage. The ministry will strengthen meetings, especially with intelligence agencies, to swiftly respond to issues and prevent further damage. Lastly, the ministry will update the nation's guidelines for protecting defense technology to reflect the rapid development of the latest technology and raise general awareness about the risks of technology leakage. South Korea's Vice Minister of National Defense, Ho Ju-seok, emphasized that defense industries form a key part of a nation's combat capabilities. Thus, the goal is to protect the nation's defense industries and maintain export competitiveness, not to increase regulations for defense firms. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And the government has also strengthened measures to prevent the leaking of new industrial technology. At the same meeting on Thursday, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy said it will require all local companies that have technology deemed critical to report to authorities when merging with or acquiring foreign companies. It'll also fine tech leakers up to 3 times the amount of damages and confiscate any economic gains that were amassed through leaks. The ministry says that there are more than 20 cases of tech leaks almost every year, including some related to the country's core industries like semiconductors. President Moon Jae-in went this morning to encourage and express his support for entrepreneurs at what's called a makerspace. A makerspace is a place where startups can share tech tools like 3D printers and laser cutters to create finished products. The Blue House said President Moon's visit there was to directly show his determination to revitalize the nation's economy this year through innovative growth and job creation. While at the makerspace, he was able to participate and watch a demonstration of the process by which startup companies complete a product, from the 3D modeling of a prototype to assembly and testing the final product. Foreign companies apparently feel good about doing business in South Korea. The amount they pledged to invest in the country last year reached an all-time high. And the Trade Ministry says it's because of the country's strong economy and the fewer geopolitical risks when it comes to North Korea. Gov't here reports.
South Korea's Trade Ministry says the amount of foreign direct investment pledged last year came to some $26.9 billion, up 17.2% compared to the previous year. It means FDI pledges to South Korea have now surpassed the $20 billion mark for 4 consecutive years. Actual investment by foreign companies in 2018 reached around $16.4 billion, up more than 20% on year. This trend was mainly due to reduced geopolitical risk in the region. The Trade Ministry says the summits between the leaders of the 2 Koreas and North Korea and the U.S. reduced such risks and encouraged overseas companies to pledge investment and seek partnerships with South Korean firms. Another reason was the fundamental strength of the local economy. With stable economic conditions, investors' confidence received a boost. For instance, in December, South Korea became just the 7th country in the world to surpass $600 billion in annual exports. Other countries on the list include the US and China. Also, many foreign companies believe South Korea has a high capacity for innovation. According to the 2018 Bloomberg Innovation Index, South Korea grabbed the top spot for the 5th year in a row. This means South Korea is leading in research and development expenditure and building high-tech public companies. By sector, foreign direct investment in the semiconductor, machineries, and petrochemical industries increased steadily. The ministry added that rising interest in industries related to the fourth industrial revolution, such as bio and e-commerce, contributed to the hike. By country or region, the lion's share of FDI pledges came from the European Union, which rose by almost 27% compared to the previous year. Investment from China increased more than 200%, marking its own record high. 고르니, Arirang News.
About a fifth of South Korea's total exports are semiconductors, which have been booming in recent years and have helped drive the country's economic growth. But things are looking less certain for the industry in the new year. Analysts expect the prices of DRAM and NAND flash chips, which are used to store data in our phones, computers, and TVs, will keep falling. Jae-in reports.
Industry insiders on Thursday said DRAM prices are likely to fall in the coming months. The global semiconductor industry began to suffer from sluggish growth from the end of last year. And according to a report by market research firm DRAM Exchange, oversupply, shrinking demand, and the gloomy economic outlook are factors behind this price fall. The report said if the current lack of demand continues, DRAM prices will see a downward trend through 2019. It also projected a fall in NAND flash prices due to shrinking demand. The average price of 8GB DRAMs, the most widely used units, last month was $7, down 10% from its peak in September. The average price of 128GB NAND flash chips, the most widely used NAND flash, also fell last month. The report said global chip makers Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, and Micron Technology, which make up the majority of the global volume, have started readjusting their chip production and reducing investment in semiconductor facilities. However, some industry insiders say prices could even rise towards the end of the year, citing a growing demand for chips driven by 5G or the 5th generation of mobile communications, as well as self-driving cars. Jae-in, Arirang News.
It's one of the hardest jobs to get in the armed forces and one of the most dangerous. In a historic first, South Korea's Air Force has picked its first woman test pilot. Park Hee-jun reports.
South Korea's first female Air Force test pilot started her 46-week training earlier Wednesday, the second day of this new year. The Republic of Korea Air Force announced that Captain Jung Da-jung has been selected as one of this year's 3 new test pilots, along with Captain Lee Chol-soo and Captain Woo Yong-gyun. Their training, almost a year long, started at the 281st Flight Test Squadron, located in the southeastern city of Sacheon in Gyeongsang-namdo Province. She entered the Air Force Academy back in 2005 and has been serving as a KF-16 jet fighter pilot, clocking up about 1,000 flight hours so far.
I started dreaming of becoming an Air Force test pilot because I wanted to be the first to examine a wide range of aircraft equipment. I will do my best to live up to the title of first female test pilot and will help my fellow fighter pilots who conduct military operations.
After her training, Jung is expected to conduct various kinds of testing missions, including the development of the South Korean-made KF-X, which the military aims to complete sometime around 2022 or later. Since 1990, the nation's Air Force has selected 42 test pilots, all males, after a rigorous selection process because their job of testing the safety of newly developed aircraft is more dangerous than flying regular fighter jets. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines.
US President Donald Trump revealed on Wednesday that he received another letter from the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, rekindling hopes of progress in North Korea-US relations. Trump also reiterated that a second summit could be on the cards sooner rather than later. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Speaking to reporters at the White House on Wednesday, President Trump said he received what he called a great letter from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, adding the leaders will likely have another summit soon.
I just got a great letter from Kim Jong-un, and those few people that I've shown this letter to, they've never written letters like that. This letter is a great letter. We've made a lot of progress with North Korea and Kim Jong-un. Chairman Kim has been, we've really established a very good relationship. A lot of good things are happening.
While it wasn't clear when President Trump received the letter, a South Korean newspaper reports it was delivered to the White House last Friday. The North Korean leader said during his New Year's address on Tuesday that he's ready for a second summit with President Trump at any time and is committed to complete denuclearization. But Kim also warned the North may be compelled to find a new way to defend its interests if the U.S. continues with its sanctions on the regime. Responding to Kim's speech, President Trump took to Twitter to say he also looks forward to meeting Chairman Kim, who he says realizes so well that North Korea possesses great economic potential. President Trump also gave himself and his administration a pat on the back, saying a big war has been avoided thanks to improved relations with North Korea, something others have not acknowledged.
We're given no credit for it. You know, frankly, if this administration didn't take place, if another administration came in instead of this administration, namely Mike and myself and the group around this table, you'd be at war right now. You'd be having a nice big fat war in Asia.
While denuclearization talks have stalled in recent months, with the latest exchange of pleasantries between the two leaders, hopes are rising that a second Kim-Trump summit will be arranged soon. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, for more on this story, joining us today, we have with us Professor Kim Hyun-wook from the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. It's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much.
So following South Korea's presidential office revealing that President Moon received a letter from Kim Jong-un last week, it seems the US President Donald Trump also has shown that he received a letter from Kim Jong-un as well. What do you make of this latest development?
I think Kim Jong-un is sending a very clear signal to President Trump about the possible continuations of the US-North Korea relations. He recently, had a New Year's speech, and I think in the New Year's speech there was some kinds of pressure on the United States. If the U.S. does not lift sanctions on North Korea would take another steps. Possibly, maybe will be compelled to take another step. I think that's the right translation into English. So I think after that New Year's speech of Kim Jong-un, in the United States, there were a lot of negative, opinions about, Kim Jong-un's speech. Okay, Kim Jong-un, I don't think they criticized that Kim Jong-un would not be willing to, denuclearize itself, just asking for the same demands on the United States, for example, lifting sanctions. So very skeptical views about the denuclearization of North Korea has been in Washington, D.C. So I think after that kind of letter and also negative opinions, Kim Jong-un's letter, which he's trying to, deliver a very firm resolve of continuations of North Korea and the United States. I think that was the intention of this letter sent to President Trump.
President Trump, the manner in which he revealed that he received this letter, waving it about during his cabinet meeting, was quite perhaps a little bit startling as well. Although we didn't get to see the contents of the letter, he seemed to be willing to show that there was this letter in his hand. Do you think Trump was perhaps trying to send sort of message as well back by doing it this way as well?
I think this is a message both to the U.S. people and also to Kim Jong-un. I think first he's trying to focus on a lot of important achievements of the U.S.-North Korea relations. He mentioned that there has been no test and no war, possibly third World War, and also this is something that has not been for about 80 years, and he is not in hurry. So he clearly expressed his firm belief on the continuations of the relationship between North Korea and the United States. So I think this is, kind of, firm message to Kim Jong-un and other, leaders that he is going to continue this kind of relationship with North Korea, possibly including the possible summit meeting in no distant future. And second is also the message to domestic people in the United States. This is a clearly good achievement that President Trump made, and also he will do the same thing. By doing this, he has done a lot of positive things. So I think this is something that he's trying to use, for domestic political purposes.
As I mentioned, the details of the letter haven't been revealed publicly, but what do you think was in the letter, considering Trump's very positive reaction?
I think Kim Jong-un definitely would have expressed his willingness to denuclearize itself. I mean, that has been also, contained in his New Year's speech. He first time by his own voice expressed that he is firmly, supporting the agreement that has been made in Singapore on June 12th between Kim Jong-un and President Trump about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, a complete denuclearization. But I think in the letter, I think would have clearly, repeated that message that he's firmly, continuing to denuclearize North Korea. Second one is I think he might have focused on the trust building between two leaders and two countries. He wants to meet and have a second summit meeting. So I don't think there would have been any response from the United States. I mean, the U.S. is continuously, demanding North Korea to denuclearize, and then afterwards the sanctions can be lifted. But I don't think all that kind of details, I don't think that would have been contained in the letter.
Before we move on, I mean, this letter as well, Trump is very, very positive towards it. But as you mentioned earlier as well, that Kim Jong-un in his New Year's Day speech did fire a sort of warning saying that, unless the US does take some sort of actions as well, North Korea might be forced to take a new path towards whatever that may mean. Do you think Trump and the Washington administration, or perhaps Trump, is putting that to the side for one now? Because at the moment he seems perfectly happy with what North Korea are saying to him on the surface.
I think, that's kind of a way that Kim Jong-un uses as pressure on President Trump in order to make the U.S. to lift the sanctions on North Korea. That's something that North Korea needs. But, definitely, U.S. Is having its own firm position that there should be, first step of denuclearization on North Korea's side, so that there will be initial, phase of sanction lifting by the United States. But I think now, President Trump and his staffs, wants to have a high-level, talk and deal before summit comes up. Because in order for summit, there should be some deals in the working level about denuclearization and sanction issues. So I don't think having said that, I don't think summit is easily possible unless there comes some kinds of working level deals. But President Trump doesn't need to say about that. He is focusing on the summit. And he's focusing and mentioning about the economic potential of North Korea. So I think he's giving a lot of potential incentive to President Kim Jong-un. Okay, this is good. I want to have a talk with you too. North Korea has a lot of economic potentials. So why don't you denuclearize and get sanctions lifted and come up for a summit? This is all the incentives that President Trump is delivering to Kim Jong-un.
So you don't think Trump's comments about saying he expects a second summit to happen and not, he said, a quote, a not too distant future, that's what he said. He says that, but do you think that's just him trying to encourage Kim Jong-un to come out? Or do you think an actual summit could happen at some point?
I don't think I can really be sure about which side Trump sticks to for now. I mean, he definitely wants to have a summit, because by having summit, he can use this as kind of a positive drive in domestic politics. okay, things are going well. He's ready to denuclearize. We are having a good relationship between North Korea and the United States. All the kind of good signals to domestic people in the United States. But there should be some kinds of denuclearization by North Korea for the summit to come up. Because if there is no deals about denuclearization and no deals about some corresponding measures by the United States to North Korea, the summit is meaningless. After the summit, there will be much more criticism than before. Okay, he had a second summit, but what do they have? There's nothing. Okay, agreement came out, but it's an empty agreement. A lot of negative criticism would be posed on President Trump. So I think at least to have summit meeting, I think he needs to have some kinds of initial steps to denuclearize North Korea.
So you're saying that both sides need to make steps. You're saying North Korea needs to make steps towards denuclearization, and perhaps the US needs to show corresponding measures as well, which the North Korea have asked for. Have you seen anything in the last few days that includes this letter from Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-un's New Year's Day speech, perhaps even Kim Jong-un's letter to Moon Jae-in, that suggests there might be some sort of movement that shows either side is willing to make these steps towards a new summit as well?
In the New Year's speech of Kim Jong-un, there was no sentences about the, North Korea would move first, including denuclearization. What has been contained in the, New Year's speech was that, okay, North Korea has done so many things. North Korea already have, removed all the test sites and all that kind of things, and North Korea have not done 4 things about nuclear weapons, did not make nuclear weapons, did not test nuclear weapons, did not, transfer nuclear weapons, and what is the last one? All the 4 things, Kim Jong-un contained in this speech that, North Korea has not done, in the past 5, 6, 7 months after the, Singapore summit. So it's now time for the United States to do something for North Korea, which means the sanction lifting. So I think the North Korea position has not changed. It's now time for the United States to do something for North Korea. But the U.S. position is that, okay, North Korea has not done anything about the existing nuclear weapons. So North Korea has to do some initial steps to denuclearize itself. Then possibly the U.S. can do some kinds of initial steps to lift the sanctions. So 2 different positions are still the same things. So I don't know how things would evolve in the future.
Perhaps this is where South Korea might have some sort of role to play here. For example, last year, when North Korea, Kim Jong-un made his New Year's Day speech in 2018, he talked about wanting to take part in the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. And President Moon Jae-in and Seoul took that and really pushed it through to happen, which pretty much opened the doors for all these kind of new reconciliation efforts last year. Do you think there's anything South Korea and President Moon Jae-in can do now to perhaps have that same kind of momentum again?
What I can see through the New Year speech of Kim Jong-un is that he mentioned the Kumgang Mountain tourism and Kaesong, industrial complex, normalizing all these 2 things. In the summit meeting between Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un, I think last September, the Pyongyang agreement contains that if certain conditions are met, Kaesong and Kumgang Mountain tourism will be normalized. So all these 2 things will be normalized if international sanctions are lifted. But in the New Year speech, Kim Jong-un is asking South Korea to do all these things regardless of the international sanctions, which means that even though sanctions are not lifted, why don't you normalize these 2 things, Kumgangsan and Kaesong complex? So, which is definitely a violation of UN sanctions. But we can be kind of flexible about these issues, even though these are not even though we don't focus on these 2 things, we can possibly think about some other agenda that would be giving some holds for the North-South, economic cooperations, and also at the same time not violate United Nations sanctions. So I think this kind of, agenda finding is something we need, by which I think we can probably bring North Korea into denuclearization, but at the same time, not violating United Nations sanctions.
Well, that's where we'll have to end it. Thank you for coming in today and sharing us your insights.
Thank you very much.
And that's where we'll have to close out our show. Thank you for watching. You can watch back on all our content online at arirang.com. In the meantime, stay tuned to Arirang for our later newscast for the latest updates. Hope you can join us again next time, and goodbye for now.
취업해서 해외여행도 가고 싶고 부모님한테 선물도 드리고 싶어요.
I really hope to foster some more relationships, make some more friends and enjoy the year.
제가 주변 사람들에게, 주변 사람들이 저에게 서로 다 따뜻한 사람이면 좋겠어서
삶에서 지치고 배제당하고 이런 경험 없는 2019년이 됐으면 좋겠고 그런 사회가 됐으면 좋겠어요.
환경 관련 정책 같은 게 좀 개선이 돼서 미세먼지라든지 여러 환경 문제가 해결됐으면 좋겠습니다.
경제도 많이 좋아져서 청년들이 많이 일자리를 찾고 행복하게 살았으면 하는 바람입니다.
대한민국 경제 성장도 됐으면 좋겠고 그냥 저뿐만 아니라 대한민국 모두 다 터닝포인트가 됐으면 좋겠네.
남북 드디어 종전선언 협상 이런 타이틀이면 좋겠네요. Peaceful world.
작을지 모르지만 그 따뜻하고 훈훈한 이야기들도 많이 있거든요. 그래서 뉴스에서 그런 이야기들이 조금 많이 들렸으면 좋겠고
함께하는 가족이랑 행복했으면 좋겠고 친구들은 계속 편하게 같이 어울려서 술 한잔 잘 먹을 수 있는 마음 편하게 살았으면 좋겠습니다.
2019년은 더 가까이.
SmartBiz Accelerators has contributed to the innovative growth of the domestic small and medium-sized businesses who aim to expand their businesses to the global market. This week on SmartBiz Accelerators, we look into Soluetta, a leading developer of new materials that can block electromagnetic waves, JSY Global, a company specializing in delivering various kinds of items, and Taewon, a provider of various components for automobiles. Also, we report on Watos Korea, a company that has developed components and fittings for bathrooms, PSM, a manufacturer of high-quality components for wind power generation, and Sebyong, a maker of shower products with sensuous designs. Don't forget to tune in and join us in the new year as always.